All right, welcome to the State House and the Alabama Senate. Great to have you all today. Senator Smitherman, do you want him to read the resolution?
Yes, sir. If I can have the resolution read at a particular time, and
All right.
if the desk would do so.
Yes, sir. Secretary, read the resolution.
Resolution commending Winona High School boys basketball team for winning the 2026 Alabama High School Athletic Association 5A state championship by Senator Smitherman. Whereas highest commendations are herein proudly presented to the Winona High School boys basketball team from Birmingham, Alabama on winning the 2026 Alabama High School Athletic Association 5A state championship on March the 7th, 2026 at Legacy Arena in Birmingham. Whereas through teamwork, diligence, and a commitment to excellence, the Winona High School Dragons took the 101-40 victory over Sylacauga, making history as the first AHSAA boys team to score 100 points in a title game. The 61-point win set a new all-time record for the largest margin of victory in a title game. Whereas Brendan Davis was named the tournament most valuable player after an extraordinary performance supported by all-tournament team selections Jaree Smith, Santez Pendleton, and Demazia Taylor. Whereas the victory marks the 7th state title in the storied history of Winona High School basketball. Winona's victory avenged a 69-68 loss to Sylacauga in last year's Class 5A semifinals. The win reflects a tradition of excellence, discipline, and community pride. Whereas Brendan Davis led Winona with 42 points and 6 rebounds, and Santez Pendleton added 25 points, 19 rebounds, and 8 assists. Devontae Penn added 13 points, and Demazia Taylor scored 11. Whereas the Winona High School boys basketball team has been coached and inspired by head coach Cedric Lane and his staff. Under their leadership, the players have broadened their knowledge of the game, refined their skills in execution, and established a school tradition of superior play and true sportsmanship. Whereas the dedication of the entire roster, coaching staff, and the Winona community has brought great honor to the city of Birmingham and to the state of Alabama. Whereas the Winona High School boys basketball team's success is a tremendous source of pride for their families, classmates, teachers, administrators, and the entire community whose dedication and support have played a crucial role in motivating the team. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the Legislature of Alabama that the Winona High School boys basketball team and coaches are highly honored and commended on winning the AHSAA 5A state championship title, and we hereby dedicate this resolution to them in utmost admiration, along with best wishes for continued success. Signed, Patrick Harris, Secretary of the Senate, and Will Ainsworth, Lieutenant Governor.
Mr. President,
Senator Smitherman,
could I be recognized?
you're recognized.
First, I just want to say on behalf of the Alabama Senate, of course, you have other leaders in the Senate that was expressed as well. We're just so proud of you all, how successful, how you all perform, how you carried yourselves as great young men, and you coaches are to be commended for having them prepared for not only for ball, but for life. You know, most people see them from afar, but I had the chance to see them from up close. We played them twice. We played them at home, and they defeated us at home. And we played them in the Final 16, and they defeated us. And of course, you know, we are proud to know that if we had to lose, we lost to the 5A state champs. So I'm just real proud of them. And I was joking them in the hall, and I told them, I said, you know, God is good. And then I said, because, you know, he made sure these next 2 years we ain't gonna have to play them in the playoffs. We gonna be at 5A and they going to 4A. So I am just elated and everything else on top of all of that. But we are just so proud of you all and glad you could come and be a part of this. And let me just say this to you all. The resolution that you have will be etched into the history of the state of Alabama. Anybody from across this world that can go on the internet and go into our archives and history can see this resolution and see what we know the basketball team has done. So this is it's a very big thing to have this in the times of history. You can go back when none of us are here. This will be there to show the accomplishment that you all as coaches and administrators and young men, you were able to do this particular year with your basketball team. So for that, we're very proud of you. Before we leave, I have a copy of this resolution for every one of you young men and for the administrators and coaches. So you all can not only have the frame copy, but you'll have your individual copy that you may place and keep for keepsake yourself. At this time, Coach, if you'll come forward and speak with us, we would appreciate it. And if Mr. Goldsmith, the principal, as well, if you like.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'd just like to take this time to say we appreciate having the opportunity to come here before you all, to give the guys the opportunity to see what's done above our heads on this level is a great thing. And I think they would say that they're grateful for the opportunity too. Thank you.
And on behalf of the administration of Winona High School, first I'd like to thank you, Senator Smitherman, and for you guys to allow us to be here. Coach Lane has come up with a great process. I'm proud of how these boys have developed. Great thing about it is there are very few seniors here, so they will be back next year. So I said the only thing they have to compete against next year are themselves, because you guys have broke all the records. I'm so proud of you. This is my last year. I'm retiring after 35 years. So best thing is you come in, I'm going out as a state champion. So it's a great thing. Thank you guys.
If there's anyone else, this be the time to come and speak. And if not, then we'll.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've done something in history that most people wish they could do, including myself, and that's win a state championship. You'll remember this from now on, and this going in the record of Alabama's history. You can always look back on it, ladies and gentlemen, for the rest of your life. We're a little bit older than you on this side, right? But at the same time, when you're my age, you can look back and say, I did that, because hardly anybody is able to do what you've done as a team. So we're very proud of you, and we're thankful that y'all are here today, and we're going to continue to celebrate y'all all the way through next year. Congratulations to you and your retirement, my friend. Thank y'all for being here from the Alabama State Senate. We applaud you.
To the Winona Dragons, I'm State Senator Marika Coleman. I don't represent Winona High School anymore, but when I served in the House, I represented Winona for 20 years. And over those 20 years, between the championships of the girls and the boys basketball, this is my most winningest, English teachers correct me, basketball program for the 24 years that I've served. I remember when Coach Lane was an assistant coach. And I go all the way back to Principal Goldsmith, to our college days, young man, when he was wearing those gold boots as a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So just congratulations to you all. You all have continued that legacy of winning, but also continue that legacy of academics. Job well done.
I'm Vivian Davis Figures, and I represent the Mobile and part of Baldwin County area. I also represent LaFleur High School, and I had the honor to be at that game and watch you guys defeat us. But I say congratulations to you. I had the honor of being the mother of two young men who each won state championships before, so they have stood where you are standing. And this is just such a wonderful thing, not only for you as the players, but for you as your parents. So I applaud your parents and say congratulations to them, to you, Coach, and your staff, to the principal. You all have done a great job. And I even told Senator Smitherman that I was so impressed with how you all did carry yourself. Such good sportsmen on the court when you played LaFleur. So I just love you, and I just pray God's richest blessings upon you as you go out through the journey of your lives. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
If it's appropriate at this time, can we take a picture?
Yeah, absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
While y'all are doing that, I'm Will Ainsworth, Lieutenant
Turn around,
Governor,
turn around,
huge
y'all.
basketball fan, but congratulations on a historic season. To win not only the margin you did in the championship game, I've been watching basketball a long time. I don't remember that ever happening. So let's give them a round of applause. Great job. Proud of y'all. And I've got one of my staff in the back is going to give each of y'all a challenge coin from our office, okay? Proud of y'all. All right, the Senate is back in session. Senator Wagner.
Mr. President, I have a report from the Committee on Rules.
All right, Secretary Reed received the report from the Committee on Rules.
From the Committee on Rules, Senate Resolution Number 99, Special Order Calendar. Be it resolved by the Senate of the Legislature of Alabama that immediately upon the adoption of this resolution, the following business in the order set forth below shall be the special and paramount order of business for the 25th legislative day, taking precedence over the regular order of business or any pending or unfinished business. On page 16 of the calendar, Senate Bill Number 99 by Senators Kelly and Sessions regarding the Ten Commandments. On page 23, Senate Bill 298 by Senator Barfoot regarding Class 3 municipalities. On page 56, House Bill Number 381 by Representatives Faulkner and others regarding camp safety. On page 70, Senate Bill Number 370 by Senators Livingston and others regarding tax increment districts. On page 55, Senate Bill 363 by Senators Chasteen and others regarding the Department of Economic and Community Affairs. On page 66, House Bill 466 by Representative Treadaway regarding firefighters. On page 25, House Bill Number 95 by Representative Lovern regarding elections. On page 56, House Bill 259 by Representative Shaw regarding stablecoin. On page 61, Senate Bill 342 by Senator Chambliss regarding education, followed by committee reports and House messages.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move the Senate adopt the report from the Committee on Rules using the previous roll call.
All right, any objection?
Had you?
Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Woods.
Thirty-one ayes, 0 nays. Special order calendar is adopted. Secretary, call the first bill.
On page 16 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 99 by Senators Kelly and Sessions regarding the Ten Commandments. BR pending.
Mr. President,
Yes. Senator Kelly.
I move adoption of the BR and would like to speak to the motion, please.
Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. This bill is dealing with the Ten Commandments, and it's been in place for a very long time. We worked with different groups over about the last 4 years to get different aspects of this bill put together. And this bill would require each local board of education to display the Ten Commandments and a contact statement in each history classroom serving students 5th grade through 12th grade, and in a common area of each school that serves only those students in the 5th grade or above. This bill would condition the requirements on the availability of donated displays and donated funds to purchase the displays, so it wouldn't be at any taxpayer expense. It also relieves the burden that if those are not available, it relieves the burden from the school to display those. This bill would require the State Department of Education to identify and publicize free resources that local boards of education may use to comply in the display requirements. This bill would also authorize the State Board of Education to adopt rules. The purpose of this bill, SB 99, ensures students will learn the full historical record of the ideas that shaped Western civilization and the American founding. The Ten Commandments are included not only as a religious mandate, but as a historical and cultural document that influenced early American law, moral philosophy, and civic development. Many of our laws are based on the Ten Commandments, and they've been around since they were given by God. The bill promotes historical literacy, civic understanding, and contextual education. What SB 99 actually requires is that local school boards must display a poster. And I actually have one of those here. This is the actual size that would be displayed. And on this display, it states that the Ten Commandments are a key part of the Judeo-Christian religious and moral tradition that shaped Western civilization and ultimately the founding of the United States. There are many versions of the Ten Commandments. The one that follows is a common translation, but not the only translation. You shall not have any other gods before me. You shall not make idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet. In 1813, future U.S. President John Quincy Adams wrote in a letter to his son that, quote, the law given from Sinai, end quote, that is the Ten Commandments, quote, was a civil and municipal as well as a moral and religious code, end quote. He noted that many of its provisions were of universal applications, laws essential to the existence of men in society, and most of which have been enacted by every nation which ever possessed any code of law. It further states that the Alabama Constitution provides that, quote, no religion shall be established by law, end quote. And the state of Alabama specifically respects the right of its public school students to be free from the state-established religion, recognizing that personal choice about matters of faith are left to students and their families. The purpose of this poster is to simply acknowledge the historical role of the Ten Commandments and the broader Judeo-Christian tradition in shaping American civil society. It also contains quotes from the Mayflower Compact of 1620. America's first written constitution contained a covenant with Almighty God by pilgrims to America to form a civil body politic. It also has a quote from the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, quote, extended the fundamental principles of civil and religious liberty to the Western territories, becoming states that provided that, quote, religion, morality, and the knowledge being necessary to good government and happiness and the happiness of mankind, schools, and the means of education shall forever be encouraged, rather. It also has a quote from the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence of 1776 described all men as being created equal and acknowledging that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that the United States Constitution of 1787 in its preamble stated one of its purposes to securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. So what I've done, I've just read you what the poster says. In the bill, it also has distinguishes the size that the poster shall be. So that's what this size is right here. So that's what we're talking about right here. Just what I read. It's not anything to do with trying to get religion in schools. It's a historical document taking us back to the foundings of our country, to the foundings of our laws and the words and the rules of the day that our laws were built on. Now, this bill also, what it actually requires.
Do you want me to recognize some special guests in the gallery? Do you care?
Yes, sir,
I
please.
believe they're your guest, the guest of Senator Kelly, the Calhoun County Chamber of Commerce leadership class. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to Alabama Senate. Great to have you today.
I'm glad you're here today. I hope you've enjoyed your visit to the Capitol, and we will continue on for you to observe what's going on in state government, and I know that you will go down and look at the House a little later if you haven't been there. But thank you for being here and taking the interest in your leadership in our communities. So what SB 99 actually does, or actually requires, is local school boards must display a poster that is entitled The Ten Commandments and Americans' Founding Documents. Now, the displays are to be in every 5th through 12th grade that teaches U.S. history in the classrooms, and at least one common area in the schools serving grades 5 and above. The display includes the Ten Commandments, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Alabama's Constitution preamble. All displays must include the clear disclaimer stating that Alabama is not establishing a religion, that matters of faith remain personal choices for students and their families.
Would the gentleman
Why
here for a question?
SB 199 is needed, students deserve to understand where American law and civic ideals came from. Many foundational documents referenced God, moral order, natural rights, but these connections are often omitted or downplayed in modern curricula. SB 99 restores historical accuracy, not religious instruction. The bill ensures that students see the full context of America's development, including the moral and philosophical influences that shape our legal system. Constitutional foundations are bound by this. The U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly held that the Ten Commandments may be displayed in an educational, historical, or cultural context. SB 99 follows that guidance. It follows it by presenting the commandments alongside secular founding documents, including a neutral academic disclaimer, avoiding any requirement for instruction, recitation, or endorsement. That has been some of the conditions and things for law.
All right, time's expired on the BIR. What was your motion?
I moved to pass the BIR, sir.
Right, did you want to use the short roll or long roll?
Long roll, please.
Long roll?
Long roll.
All right. Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smithman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams. Mr. Woods.
Thirty ayes, 4 nays, the BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 16 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 99 by Senators Kelly and Sessions regarding the Ten Commandments.
All right, before we get started, I want to recognize another special guest in the gallery, guest of the entire Senate, and also the Lieutenant Governor's office, Pastor Jamel J. Brown. If you could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. Great to have you today. Enjoy the videos. They're good. So, all right, Senator Kelly.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of SB 99. I'd like to speak to the motion.
All right, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I was mentioning before, the U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly held that the Ten Commandments may be displayed in an educational, historical, or cultural context. SB 99 follows that guidance by presenting the commandments alongside secular founding documents, including a neutral academic disclaimer, avoiding any requirement for instruction.
All right, we have a report from the Committee on Rules.
From the Committee on Rules, petition to close debate, we, the undersigned members of the Senate Rules Committee, petition the Senate persuade to Senate Rule 20 that debate on the pending measure, Senate Bill number 99, shall cease at 2:17 o'clock on March the 31st, 2026.
I'd like to speak to the motion, please.
Avoiding
All right, Senator Kelly.
Mr. President.
any requirement
Mr. President.
for instruction.
Oh, Mr.
excuse me.
President, point of order.
Or
Point
endorsement.
of order, Mr. President.
Hold
This is a
on,
historical-
Senator.
Point of order.
No, Senator Singleton. I
Point of order.
recognize
Point of
Senator
order.
Kelly to talk on
Point of
this.
order. Point of order.
What? Hold on.
Benefits
Let's
to
state
the
your point of order.
Point of order.
Strengthens understanding.
Senator
did
Kelly,
you-
hold on one second.
right.
All right.
Mr. President, you looked at me, acknowledged that I had my hand raised before he even started. You just went right back to him. I understand your game plan here, but be fair about it.
No, I'm going to be fair. I mean, but
Fair with your game plan. Look, you looked me in my eyes,
I went like this.
and you went
because-
another way.
No, not at all. I mean, I just did this because you had your hand up to let you know I acknowledged you.
Ask for a point to
Right, and it's
speak.
my decision who I decide, and he wanted to speak as well, so I went to
But he
him.
didn't even ask to
I
speak.
answered your point
He
of
didn't
order.
even ask
All right,
to
Senator
speak, Mr.
Kelly, you're up.
President.
Go.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, he didn't even ask to speak.
The Constitution and Foundation of the United States has reinforced these in the Constitution itself, and we've got a lot of benefits to students that come out of this legislation. It strengthens the understanding of American history, civic development, and legal heritage. It helps students to have ideas about justice, rights, moral order, evolved over time. It encourages critical thinking, which is desperately needed in our schools to this day. It encourages the thought on sources of American law and how our country got to where it is today. It provides a richer, more complete educational experience. Now, it has some benefits to schools as well. It creates a uniform, statewide standard for historical displays. It reinforces community values of heritage, responsibility, and civic virtue. Costs are minimized because the displays may be donated by civic groups, churches, nonprofits, and private citizens. It does not use any taxpayer money whatsoever. And should a donation of this poster not be able to be obtained by the school, it relieves them of the burden of having to display it. What SB 99 does not do is it does not require religious instruction. It does not require students to read, recite, or affirm the Ten Commandments. It does not promote one faith over another. It does not violate the Establishment Clause. It follows this established constitutional precedent. It does not impose any cost whatsoever on the schools. So it's a historical truth bill, not a religious bill. It ensures students learn the full history of America's founding, including the moral and philosophical differences that shape our laws. It's constitutional, balanced, and rooted in Alabama's commitment to freedom, faith, and families. This bill is about historical truth, civic literacy, and teaching students the full story of America's foundations. For generations, the Ten Commandments have been recognized not only as a religious text, but as one of the most influential documents in the development of Western law and moral philosophy. Our foundations reference these principles when shaping ideas about justice, rights, and personal responsibility. SB 99 simply ensures that students see the historical influence that shaped the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and every legal traditions of this country. The displays required by this bill are educational, historical, and contextual. It includes a clear disclaimer stating that Alabama is not establishing a religion and that matters of faith remain personal choices for students and families. This is not a mandate for religious instruction. It's a mandate for historical accuracy. Students deserve to understand the full context of America's founding, including the moral, philosophical ideas that influenced our legal system. SB 99 provides that context in a balanced way. It has information that is beneficial to the students where they can see our founding documents all at one place and how they affected each other. Now, some may say this violates separation of church and state. The Supreme Court has consistently upheld the Ten Commandments displays when presented in a historical education context. SB 99 includes a clear disclaimer and places the commandments alongside secular foundation documents. Some may say this is a religious indoctrination. There is no instruction, recitation, or endorsement. Students are not required to engage with the text. It's strictly a historical display, not a religious one. Some may say this will lead to further lawsuits. SB 99 is drafted to align with existing constitutional precedent, the inclusion of a disclaimer, and the contextual presentation significantly reducing the legal risk. It also is not the same bill that came before this body last year, as it has been adapted from court cases that were at that time pending but now have results, and it is not in conflict with any of those suits. Some may say schools should focus more on academics, not religion. I reiterate, this bill is about academics, specifically historical literacy. The Ten Commandments are presented as part of historical influences of American law, not religious document. This imposes cost on schools. As I said before, the displays may be donated by civic groups, churches, nonprofits, or private citizens. SB 99 does not require schools to spend that money. Some must say this favors one religion. The Ten Commandments are presented in a historical document, not a religious mandate. They are displayed alongside the Constitution, the Declaration, and the Bill of Rights, all secular documents. Thank you. This legislation has been in the works for quite a time. A lot of adaptations, a lot of people have had input on it.
Shaking your head, you started staring them.
This bill actually, if you look at the Ten Commandments and its effect on our laws and laws of other countries around the nation, you can take a look back that the Ten Commandments are one of the oldest known legal codes. They originated in ancient Near East around the 13th century, a time when law, codes, and moral teachings were being established across various civilizations. As a historical document, the Ten Commandments have shaped the development of Western legal traditions and morality. They lay the foundation for concepts like justice, honesty, and personal responsibility, attributes that we could use more in our society now than we have ever had before. The Ten Commandments are part of the Torah. As such, they are central not only to Judaism, but also to broader Abrahamic tradition, which translates Christianity and Islam. The moral laws embedded in the Ten Commandments have shaped the laws and ethics of countless societies over the centuries. The influence that the Ten Commandments have had on other legal codes, they predate many modern legal systems, which their principles were clearly influential on later codes, including the Code of Hammurabi, which similarly dealt with theft, adultery, and murder. They are considered to be the precursor to modern legal and moral frameworks, influencing everything from criminal law to property rights and human rights. Many of the commandments reflect concepts that were groundbreaking at the time, such as the sanctity of human life, thou shalt not kill, and the importance of truthful testimony, thou shalt not bear false witness. The historical role in the development of the West, in the Western world, the Ten Commandments played a pivotal role in shaping Judeo-Christian culture. The moral and ethical framework they offer has been incorporated into philosophy of the Western civilization, influencing thinkers, leaders, legal systems, political figures, and leaders from all forms of business throughout our history, from the Renaissance to the Enlightenment and beyond. They provide the foundation for the rule of law, the concept of justice, which are cornerstones of modern Western legal systems. They have educational value as well. The Ten Commandments serve as the starting point for discussions on ethics, morality, and values. They provide clear principles regarding right and wrong, which can stimulate critical thinking and ethical reflections among students. In a world where students are exposed to diverse cultures and belief systems, learning about the Ten Commandments offers a way to discuss how moral codes have evolved and their universal relevance in different societies. This can help students understand different worldviews and historical roots and the laws that we follow today. It can lead to spirited discussions among college campuses around because they learned these in high school. Understanding the Ten Commandments is part of being culturally literate in the context of Western civilization. They've had a profound influence not just on religion, but also on art, literature, philosophy, and history. Many works of classical literature and art reference or are based on the Ten Commandments, and a deep understanding of this document enriches the student's ability to engage with Western culture. The Ten Commandments appear frequently in historical and political discussions, from the American Revolution to the Civil Rights Movement. Teaching students about the Ten Commandments ensures that they are exposed to key parts of the cultural and historical landscape that they inhabit. Fostering respect for laws and personal responsibility is the cornerstone of our society. Displaying the Ten Commandments in schools could encourage respect for the law and instill a sense of personal responsibility in students. By reflecting the ethical principles in the Ten Commandments, honor your father and mother, do not covet, students can better understand the importance of personal integrity and responsibility toward others in society. These moral teachings underscore the value of honesty, fairness, respect, principles that are important in developing good citizens and fostering a healthy school culture. Also will make them better citizens when they are out of school and better workers in the workplace. And there are some legal and constitutional considerations. The display of the Ten Commandments in schools can be defended on the grounds of historical and educational value rather than religious endorsement. The First Amendment guarantees the freedom of religion, but it does not prohibit the teaching or display of historical documents. That they have shaped our cultural and legal landscape is indisputable. Courts have upheld the teaching of religious history or text with historical significance when presented in a secular context, as this is attempting to do. For example, the study of the Bible as part of history of religion or literature is not necessarily a violation of the Establishment Clause, as long as it is not promoting any particular religious belief, just as this poster does not promote any particular religious belief. There are some legal precedents for this. In Stone versus Graham, in 1980, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against displaying the Ten Commandments in public schools as part of a religious program. However, there's precedent for the historical significance of the Ten Commandments being recognized as part of the American cultural heritage. In some cases, especially when they are shown alongside other historical documents, it's easy to see the influence that the Ten Commandments have had on other historical documents and our nation's history. The Van Orden versus Perry, 2005. That case upheld that the Ten Commandments on the grounds of the Texas state capitol, acknowledging their role in historical and cultural landscape rather than a religious endorsement. There's some more educational benefits in the diverse of society. Displaying the Ten Commandments is consistent with the goal of fostering cultural understanding and tolerance in the pluralistic society. Understanding historical documents that have shaped our society's moral and legal framework helps students gain a deeper appreciation for the diverse religious, cultural, and philosophical traditions that contribute to our contemporary life. While the Ten Commandments are central to Judaism, Christianity, and even Islam, their ethical teachings have a broader relevance and are shared by people of various faiths, various cultures, various countries, and those with no religious affiliation. The Ten Commandments should be viewed as a historical document of immense cultural and legal importance. Their influence on the development of the Western legal system, moral philosophy, and ethical values cannot be overstated. Displaying the Ten Commandments in schools serves as an educational purpose, offering students insight into the historical roots of moral codes that continue to reshape modern societies. By displaying the Ten Commandments in schools, educators would provide a framework for discussions on ethics, civics, and cultural history, encouraging students to understand and appreciate the moral foundations that underpin the laws and the systems in which they live. It would be also an enhancement to students' cultural library and promote respect for the laws and ethical values that have shaped the world in which we live and their fellow man. The Ten Commandments should be treated as an important historical document and an educational resource, not as a religious one in this case. And their display in schools should be embraced as a valuable teaching tool to foster better civilizations more culturally than aware of the student body. Sir William Blackstone, an influential English jurist and legal scholar, acknowledged the Ten Commandments as an important source for moral and legal principles in the development of Western law. While Blackstone authored his famous work, Commentaries on the Laws of England, his ideas and the legal system he helped shape were deeply influenced by the Ten Commandments. Blackstone's legal philosophy was grounded in the belief that law should be aligned with divine law, which he saw as part of a higher moral order. He argued that laws of England were not merely human creations, but were divinely inspired, and thus they reflected natural law, a law that was in accordance with both reason and divine will. This concept of natural law was strongly connected to principles embodied in the Ten Commandments. Specific influences of the Ten Commandments on Blackstone's thought were the sanctity of life and the prohibition against murder. The sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill, was central to Blackstone's view on the sanctity of life. He emphasized that murder was a grave offense, not only against human law, but also against divine law. This commandment directly influenced his stance on the protection of life and the severity of punishments for taking a life unjustly. I think we can all agree the sanctity of life is extremely important and must be honored in our law and our society, for without it, we have hysteria. The prohibition against stealing. The eighth commandment, thou shalt not steal, was fundamental in Blackstone's understanding of property rights. He viewed the protection of private property as a key element of natural law and a principle that should be upheld by the legal system. Theft, in Blackstone's view, was a direct violation of both divine and human law, and the protection of property was essential to maintaining law and order and social order. We see these evidences now by gangs of youth that go in to a store and steal and overwhelm the employees and leave. We could use a little bit more of the Ten Commandments in our society today. Moral foundations of law. Blackstone believed that laws should reflect moral principles and serve to uphold a just and orderly society. Many of the moral principles embodied in the Ten Commandments, such as honesty, respect of others, property, and sanctity of life, were aligned with Blackstone's view of law and the instrument to promote moral behavior and protect individuals from harm. In the context of natural law, he argues that the foundation of all human law is the law of nature, which is accessible to human reason and rooted in divine law. The Ten Commandments, as part of moral teachings, were seen as fundamental resource of this natural law. For Blackstone, divine law and moral principles, such as those found in the Ten Commandments, provide a framework for understanding and applying human law. He believed that human law, in order to be just, must align with the natural law, which in turn reflects God's will. We've had influence of this on the American legal tradition. Blackstone's commentary on the laws of England had a profound influence on the development of American law. Many of the founding fathers, including John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison, were familiar with Blackstone's works and incorporated his ideas into the structure of the legal thought. The moral and legal principles that Blackstone discussed.
All right, the time's expired. Secretary called the long roll.
I'd like to have it read at the proper time.
All right.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton.
No.
Mr. Smithman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams. Mr. Woods.
$27 ayes, 7 nays. The cloture petition's adopted. And then you wanted the bill read at length?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Please.
Secretary, read the bill.
Relating to public schools to provide legislative findings to require certain local boards of education to display the Ten Commandments and certain other documents related to the formation of this nation, subject to the availability of donations, to provide for the use of donations, to comply with the display requirement, and to authorize the State Board of Education to adopt rules. The legislature finds and declares all of the following. 1, the Ten Commandments are a key part of the Judeo-Christian religious and moral tradition that shaped Western civilization and ultimately the founding of the United States, in particular because they include what John Quincy Adams described as both civil and municipal provisions as well as moral and religious provisions. The Ten Commandments have historical significance as one of the foundations of our legal system. Teaching students about the Ten Commandments promotes historical understanding and helps to foster a common cultural heritage and awareness. Documents created to shape civil society during the founding era of this nation include direct and indirect references to God and religion. These documents include the following. The Mayflower Compact of 1620, America's first written constitution, was a covenant made among the Pilgrims with Almighty God to form a civil body politic. The Mayflower Compact was the first purely American document of self-government and affirmed the link between civil society and God. The Declaration of Independence described all men as being created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. The United States Constitution stated in its preamble that one of the purposes was to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, and closed with a reference to the date of execution as the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1787. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 provided a method of admitting new states to the Union from territories as the country expanded westward. The Northwest Ordinance extended the fundamental principles of civil and religious liberty to the territories and stated that religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind, schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. References to God and religion in public documents and other public contexts did not end at the founding, but rather have occurred throughout our nation's history, without any serious claim that such references violate the Establishment Clause. Examples include displays associated with the Ten Commandments in the Supreme Court of the United States, the Library of Congress, the Ronald Reagan International Trade Building, and the National Archives. Public references to God have occurred repeatedly over the nation's history. No outcry followed Abraham Lincoln's reference to God in his Gettysburg Address in 1863. Our coinage has borne the phrase, "In God We Trust," since 1865. Prayers have opened our legislative sessions for hundreds of years. In 1932, Congress adopted our national anthem and included in the last verse, "In God We Trust." In 1952, Congress proclaimed a National Day of Prayer. In 1954, Congress added "Under God" to the Pledge of Allegiance. The display of the Ten Commandments as provided in this act with an appropriate context statement and integrated with the approved public school social studies curriculum is consistent with these historical practices and understandings, and at a minimum furthers the same interest as the interest served by these historical practice and understanding. The 2024 social studies curriculum approved by the Alabama State Board of Education provides social studies education in Alabama aims to prepare students to become knowledgeable, engaged, and responsible citizens in society. Social studies reflects the achievements, struggles, interactions, and endeavors that have characterized human society as it has changed over time and places to shape the world today. The discipline of social studies include, but are not limited to, anthropology, archaeology, civics, economics, geography, government, history, philosophy, psychology, religion, and sociology. Display of the Ten Commandments with an appropriate context statement is essential to the fulfillment of the mandate of the State Board of Education in the education of students in the areas of civics, government, history, and philosophy. 2 generations of Alabama students have attended public schools in an era governed by the now abandoned test articulated in Lemon v. Kurtzman for compliance with the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution, assuring restoration to the classroom of historical truths surrounding the founding of our nation, including those truths that partake of the religious Kennedy v. Bremerton, is vital to remedying the legal error of Lemon v. Kurtzman and to securing a complete education of our students. Due to reliance on misinterpretations about the meaning of the Establishment Clause or due to their own personal policy preferences, a significant number of Alabama teachers are unlikely to expose public school students to these historical truths if left with any direction about how or whether to present these truths. Posting these historical truths in classrooms and school common areas is thus an essential means of accomplishing the state's educational objectives in teaching students about the historical and cultural significance of the Ten Commandments on development of the United States and is apparent from accompanying founding era documents, including in the posting a reference to the state's Establishment Clause and a recognition that personal choice about matters of faith are left to students and their families will further the state's interest in avoiding the establishment or religion or interfering with the free exercise of religion. Such disclaimers will also serve the state's educational objectives because they will make it likely that the classroom teachers will become comfortable discussing the historical truths that are included in the poster. This act does not create an unfunded mandate on any public school governing authority. Local boards of education are encouraged to use documents that are printed and made available to the schools free of charge. Beginning on January 1st, 2027, and subject to the availability of donated funds or donated displays pursuant to subsection C, as determined by the State Superintendent of Education, each local Board of Education shall display a poster or framed document that meets the requirements of subsection B in each of the following locations. Every 5th through 12th grade classroom where United States history is routinely taught according to the Alabama course of study. An entryway or common area, such as the cafeteria or school library, in every school within the jurisdiction of the local Board of Education, except that this subdivision shall not apply to any school that serves students in kindergarten through 4th grade. The poster or frame document required by subsection A shall meet each of the following requirements. 1, the poster or frame document shall be at least 11 inches by 14 inches in size. 2, the layout and design of the poster frame document shall be approved by the State Superintendent of Education. 3, the poster or frame document shall contain the following content: historical truths, the Ten Commandments, and America's founding documents. The Ten Commandments are a key part of the Judeo-Christian religious moral tradition that shaped Western civilization and ultimately the founding of the United States. There are many versions of the Ten Commandments. The one that follows is a common translation, but not the only translation. You shall not have other gods before me. You shall not make idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet. In 1813, future U.S. President John Quincy Adams wrote in a letter to his son that the law given from Sinai, in other words, the Ten Commandments, was a civil and municipal as well as moral and religious code. He noted that many of its provisions were of universal applications, laws essential to the existence of men in society and most of which have been enacted by every nation which ever possessed any code of law. The Alabama Constitution provides that no religion shall be established by law, and the state of Alabama specifically respects the rights of its public school students to be free from state-established religion, recognizing that personal choice about matters of faith are left to students and their families. The purpose of this poster is simply to acknowledge the historical role of the Ten Commandments and the broader Judeo-Christian tradition in shaping American civil society. The Mayflower Compact of 1620, America's first written constitution, contained a covenant with Almighty God by pilgrims to America to form a civil body politic. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 extended fundamental principles of civil and religious liberty to Western territories, becoming states, and provided that religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind, schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. The Declaration of Independence described all men as being created equal and acknowledged that they are endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights. The United States Constitution, in its preamble, stated that one of its purposes to be securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. From the tradition emerged that one nation under God that we have inherited today. This section may be construed to require a local Board of Education to spend its funds to purchase the displays required by this section. To fund the displays free of charge, a local Board of Education may accept donated funds to purchase the displays or may accept donated displays. The State Department of Education shall identify appropriate resources for local boards of education to comply with this section free of charge. Once identified, the department shall list the free resources on the department's website. The State Board of Education may adopt rules to implement this section. Section 3, this act shall become effective October 1, 2026.
Yeah. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shellnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smithman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner, Ms. Weaver, Mr. Williams, Mr. Woods.
Twenty-seven ayes, 6 nays. Senate Bill 99 passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Kelly. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 23 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 298 by Senator Barfoot regarding Class 3 municipalities.
Mr. President,
Senator Barfoot.
move for adoption of the BIR using previous role, and I'd like to speak to that amendment.
All right, you're recognized.
Speak to that motion. Mr. President, SB 298 has gotten a lot of discussion over the past couple of weeks. Now I'd like to separate fact from fiction. And during the BIR, if I could, I'd like to read exactly what this bill does. The synopsis provides that this bill would provide minimum staffing requirements for Class 3 municipal law enforcement agencies. The requirements would include a minimum ratio of 2 full-time law enforcement officers for every 1,000 residents of the municipality. This bill would establish a 5-year compliance period for municipalities that are not in compliance on the effective date of this act. During this compliance period, the municipality would be required to meet certain goals and increases in staffing. This bill would provide that if a municipality fails to satisfy certain requirements for staffing, the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency would be authorized to assume oversight of the municipal law enforcement agency. This bill would authorize the Attorney General to seek to recoup any cost incurred by the state in the oversight of a municipal law enforcement agency. This bill would also authorize the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency to adopt rules. Now, that's the synopsis. As we move into the bill, let's talk about some of the specifics of the piece of legislation. Section 1 provides that each Class 3 municipality shall maintain a ratio of 2 full-time law enforcement officers for every 1,000 residents of the municipality. And that's determined by the 2020 federal decennial census. In other words, it's a static number. That number is in place from the census from 2020. A Class 3 municipality that does not meet the requirements of subsection A, which I just read, on October the 1st, 2026, shall be granted an initial grace period of 5 years to achieve full compliance. The municipality shall be exempt from satisfying the requirements of subsection A during the grace period, provided the municipality complies with the requirements of subsection C, which we'll get to, and the other applicable provisions of this act. Subsection C states, during the grace period under subsection B, the municipality shall make annual improvements of not less than 10% of the deficit between the current officer ratio and the required ratio provided under subsection A. Annually, during the grace period, the governing body of the municipality and the chief of police shall submit a report to the Secretary of the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency, demonstrating that the municipality is making the required annual improvements. Move on. Section 2. On an annual basis by December the 1st, the governing body of each Class 3 municipality shall submit all of the following to the Secretary of the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency. Number 1, the number of sworn officers as of October 31st of the current year. Number 2, the population used for compliance calculation. Number 3, the steps taken to recruit, hire, or train additional officers. As we move on, Section 3 says, if a Class 3 municipality is in violation of Section 1, the state of Alabama, through the Secretary of the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency, or ALEA, may assume operational oversight of the police department of the municipality and may execute one or more of the following actions. Number one, establish a corrective action plan for the municipality to regain compliance. Number two, deploy supplemental law enforcement personnel or resources. Number three, appoint a chief administrative law enforcement officer who shall have the authority to act in all matters and for all purposes regarding the police department of the municipality, including but not limited to personnel actions, administrative procedures, enforcement strategies, and recruitment and retention methods. Number four, enter into a cooperative enforcement agreement with the county sheriff, adjacent jurisdictions, or state agencies. B, the operational oversight of the Class 3 municipal police department pursuant to subsection A shall continue until the passage of 365 calendar days following the municipality's compliance with the requirements of this act. Section 4, the state of Alabama and its effective agencies and any supporting political subdivision of the state shall be entitled to full restitution for the cost to deploy supplemental law enforcement officers during any period of operational oversight of a Class 3 municipal police department pursuant to Section 3. Restitution shall include payment payable to the state and its affected agencies for cost incurred implementing and administrating a period of operational oversight, including the deployment of supplemental law enforcement officers. B, on behalf of the state of Alabama, its affected agencies, and any supporting political subdivision of the state, the Attorney General shall submit a petition for restitution that shall include all of the following. 1, the name of the agency requesting restitution. 2, the name and rank of each supplemental law enforcement officer deployed for operational oversight of the Class 3 municipality. 3, the number of hours each supplemental law enforcement officer was deployed. 4, the hourly rate at which each supplemental law enforcement officer was paid, including fringe benefits, mileage, and per diem. 5, the total amount of non-personnel operational costs incurred, including costs for equipment, vehicles, and fuel. 6, the total amount of money requested as restitution by the agency. 7, any supporting documentation necessary to establish any expenditure under this subsection. And then C, the court shall hold a hearing on the petition and shall grant the petition if the court is reasonably satisfied from the evidence that the petitioner has satisfied the requirements of this section. Section 5, the Secretary of the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency may adopt rules to implement and administer this section. And then Section 6, this act shall become effective October 1st, 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, SB 298 has gotten a lot of coverage lately. Some of it fact, some of it fiction. I've just read the bill to you, lets you determine what's fact and what's fiction. Core staffing requirements as required by SB 298 suggest or claim that there needs to be 2 law enforcement officers per 1,000 residents. And again, that's based on the 2020 census. That number for Montgomery, based on the 2020 census, would be approximately 400 officers. The annual reporting that's required by this SB 298 is by December the 1st of each year. The municipal governing body's got to submit the number of sworn officers, the population used for calculation, the recruitment, hiring steps taken by the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Compliance grace period. Again, it's a 5-year window. That's calculated by the number of law enforcement officers needed based on that 2020 population, by the number of officers that Montgomery, for instance, would have. And the deficit there, let's just say if there's a needed 400 officers, and let's just say for argument's sake that 250 officers is what Montgomery has, well, that's a deficit of 150. 10% of that would be 15. There's a net improvement or gain required by this of 15 officers in the first year. Again, not a hard hill to climb, or at least it shouldn't be. Now, as I continue through the bill, those progress reports must be submitted to Aaliyah to show the improvement. We've had conversations. We had a public hearing. You saw the chief of police say that he didn't think that this bill would ever come into effect because he thought Montgomery would have the required number of officers. Well, I hope so. Said that in committee, say that here on the floor today. I hope that's the case because nobody wants to have to come in and have this bill controlled.
All right, time's up on the BIR, and we had a request for the long roll. All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot.
Aye.
Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chastain. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams. Mr. Woods.
Twenty-six ayes, 7 ayes. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 23 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 298 by Senator Barfoot regarding Class 3 municipalities.
Mr. President.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd move for final passage. I'd like to speak to that amendment.
All right, your motion, two bills speaking at the same time, was final passage. You want to speak to that?
Yes.
You're recognized.
Objection. I'd like to speak on the bill.
All right.
I'm not calling
thank you,
them.
Mr. President. So discussion has been had about motivation for this piece of legislation. The motivation for this piece of legislation, as a matter of fact, I had a text earlier this morning asking me what my motivation is. That motivation is simple. It's the public safety of the citizens of Montgomery, those who live here, those who work here, those who own businesses here, and the safety of those police officers, the men and women of the Montgomery Police Department that go to work every single day to protect us, every single day to protect us. You know, I've gotten calls, more calls about this piece of legislation than any other piece of legislation that I have been a part of or have seen in my 8 years here. And I got to tell you, the number of calls that are in support are dwarf the 15 to 20 text or emails that I've gotten in opposition. You look on social media, you look on text messages, emails, phone calls, and men and women across Montgomery, from east to west to north or south, are tired of turning on the news and hearing about the violence that we've had here in Montgomery. We're tired of having the thefts that are occurring. We're tired of having the robberies, the home invasions, and believe me, that is across Montgomery. There is no question about that. So that's the motivation. You know, we talk about public safety, and I just mentioned the fact that that we've had many calls. Those silent folks, the ones who are with the police department that need backup, that have that they know that when they go into a fight, and believe me, it is a fight. It's a fight between good and bad. And those men and women that put on a badge every single day are in that fight. And they don't have the backup that they need from Montgomery.
Senator Barfoot, you care if I recognize special guests in the gallery real quick?
Yes, go right ahead.
Forgot to do this earlier. When I call your name, if you could please stand. The guest of Senator Figures, Dr. Lonnie Johnson and wife Linda. Then let me read real quick about them. You could please stand. And then let me read his bio real quick. Mobilian Dr. Lonnie Johnson has worked on a system design engineer on several NASA missions, including Voyager, Galileo to Jupiter, and Cassini mission to Saturn. He is a 10-year veteran U.S. Air Force officer who helped develop the B-2 bomber. He is now developing renewable energy technology and electric batteries that will extend the range of EVs from 300 miles to 600 miles and has over 160 patents. He is a Tuskegee University graduate and is best known as the inventor of the Super Soaker water gun. So, yep.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Senator Barfoot, you still
you.
got the mic. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So, I've addressed the motivation. Let me just say this. It's long been a saying of mine that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's never wrong. This is the right thing for Montgomery. There is no question about that. You know, I've had conversations and heard folks saying that they were thunderstruck, that they were surprised at this piece of legislation. You know, 2 years ago, and I believe even last year, there was some legislation that addressed the Montgomery Police Department and the need for extra officers there. This bill is not a surprise. It's disingenuous to say that no conversations have been had. I'll say this, the bill was filed on February the 12th of 2026. My colleague across the way and I publicly acknowledged my missteps in not assessing that, not having that conversation with them. But since February the 12th of 2026, we had a public hearing on February the 17th of 2026. We had a committee vote on February the 24th, 2026, and today, March the 31st, we're here on the floor. That's 47 days since it was introduced. Not one time have I gotten a call from the mayor of Montgomery. Not one time have I gotten a call from the police chief of Montgomery. Not one time. So 47 days since it's been filed. Tell you who I have gotten calls from, or who I have had conversations from, and that's some folks from Huntsville. The folks in Huntsville have been proactive, coming to me about potentially making changes. You'll hear about that at some point in time. But I have not had any conversation with the mayor of Montgomery or the police chief of Montgomery. Not one time have they called me about this bill.
Did you ask them?
As we continue, so during the time, as I said, I've heard from countless people, including law enforcement officers for the city of Montgomery. Those who have left Montgomery to go to other jurisdictions, who did not leave because they wanted to, but they left because they didn't feel there was the support there. During that time, people have said that they haven't heard about anybody saying that we need more officers. Well, I'll tell you this. My wife for the past 4 or 5 years has told me that I might need hearing aids, that she's tired of telling me the same thing over and over and over again. Well, I probably do. She tells me it's frustrating when she says something and she's not heard. Well, guess what? It is frustrating. It's frustrating for her, and it's frustrating for the citizens of Montgomery whenever they're the victims and their neighbors are victims, and on the nightly news, you see everything that's going on, and you know at the very least that it's partially because Montgomery doesn't have the law enforcement officers that they need. Now, I've had some criticisms about the bill. Some of those involved unfunded mandates, tax raises. You heard some of that discussion. Well, in fact, it's not an unfunded mandate. and there is no need to raise taxes. You see, I looked at the Montgomery budget in 2022. By the way, the city of Montgomery's done a pretty good job of budgeting for law enforcement folks. That number has continued to go up under the mayor and the city council, so kudos for them. In 2022, there was $53 million, to be exact, $53,661 budgeted for police or law enforcement. 2023, that number was $53,469,000. 2024 went up to $59,614,000. 2025, $59,089,000, and then the most recent one, 2026, $62,227,000. That total is about $288 million expended on law enforcement for the city of Montgomery, or budgeted, excuse me. The problem with that is despite Montgomery's best efforts, we've nowhere near paid for or gotten the officers that we require. Those total expenditures over a 5-year period of time beginning in 2020 through 2024 total $234 million, a deficit of, I expect, somewhere around $40 million from what's been budgeted to what's been spent. The money is there, it is in the city coffers, and there is not a reason or a need to raise taxes for this particular piece of legislation. Now, the other thing I've heard is that my colleagues, I've heard some of them say, and some on social media, well, if it's good for Montgomery, surely it's good for everybody else. Valid question, valid question. But let me tell you why it doesn't apply to everybody else. And let me tell you why other cities don't need that. So let's talk about Mobile for a second. Mobile has a population, by the way, Montgomery in the 2020 census is about 200,000 people. So let's look at what Mobile. Well, Mobile actually has a population of less than Montgomery, according to the 2020 census. But you know what? They've budgeted for 516 officers. They have 504, and they will increase to 535 in June. Mobile is doing a great job of getting the officers that they need.
Tell us about Pritchard. They need officers.
As far as Birmingham, let's talk about Birmingham. Well, my hat is off to Birmingham. Birmingham delegation, you ought to go back to your mayor and tell him he's doing a great job. And let me explain that. So I noticed, I looked on the Birmingham webpage, and in August of 2025, there is a news article, August the 21st of 2025. The Birmingham Police Department just made history. On Tuesday, Chief Pickett and Birmingham Police Department leadership welcomed 93 new recruits, the largest academy class in department history, as they began their journey in recruiting session 128 to 160. These future officers will spend the coming months with intensive training, preparing to serve and protect our city with integrity and skill. With this milestone class, Birmingham Police Department has hired a total of 202 new officers since January. That was August of 2025. From January of 25 to August of 25, that's 202 officers Birmingham's done. Mayor Woodfin has done an outstanding job of getting those individuals up there in Birmingham. Why can't we do that here in Montgomery? I heard comments yesterday that we could hire 1,000 more people in Montgomery at the flip of the switch, but we needed people with the right tenor and demeanor and tone. Are you saying that Mayor Woodfin doesn't have the right tenor and tone? I don't think so, because I am proud to say that it sounds like Birmingham is addressing that problem. So again, Birmingham doesn't have the issue. Mobile doesn't have that issue. I'm here and I represent Montgomery. Mr. President, I continue along. So Montgomery, by comparison, I've pointed out what other large municipalities in the state. Montgomery, by comparison, in 2019, the Montgomery Police Department had 485 officers. 485 officers. In his city council meeting, Councilman Pruitt on April the 18th of 2023 said Montgomery at that time was down to 354 officers. That's about 3 years ago. Today, it's estimated that Montgomery has somewhere between 220 and 230. I say estimated because public can't find out what those numbers are. I certainly hadn't ever been able to find out, and it is almost like trying to get the nuclear codes. It's just impossible. So what we do know is that we need law enforcement at the 400 level mark. That's what the bill calls for. Now let me say this. That 400 number is just not a pulling something out of the air. You know, there was a public safety meeting pursuant to the city of Montgomery. That public safety meeting happened back on April the 16th of 2024, again, almost 2 years ago. And I'm looking at the meeting notes. Public Safety Standing Committee, MPD, pay incentives and longevity bonuses. At that meeting, the meeting notes indicate that Chief Hall, who at the time was the interim police chief, was asked how many officers were needed to be effective on the streets. He stated they needed 400 to be operational, and this was the bottom number needed. It's not the politicians talking about it. That's the law enforcement, the police chief of the city of Montgomery in April of 2014. You know, we've talked a lot today about what the bill does, and now I'd like to tell you what the bill doesn't do. Let me back up. Before we get there, you know, there's been some news coverage, and just to highlight to you, and by the way, I am proud that Montgomery is taking steps, and this is not to beat up on the city of Montgomery because I represent Montgomery. My colleague across the way represents Montgomery.
Yes.
Montgomery is doing the best of their ability right now to try to address that problem because they are now running ads on TV acknowledging that they need to hire more individuals. But I'll say this, you know, there was a news article, and I'm, you know, not steeped in the politics of the city council, but there was a news article here back a couple months ago that the city of Montgomery was actually having to hire an out-of-state private entity to pay them $1.45 million a year for 3 vehicles to work minor traffic accidents. On one hand, I applaud Montgomery for trying to do something, but I'm not sure why that money couldn't be spent in different ways to help the citizens of Montgomery to hire other officers to engage the sheriff's department to help out local people to help. That's what this bill does. We would also note that back in August of this year, you know, there were some crime statistics that were not reported. Aaliyah had sent out on August the 18th, 2025, that and I quote, all Alabama law enforcement agencies are required to electronically file submissions to the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency CJIS division at least monthly. The Montgomery Police Department has not submitted uniform crime reporting data for May, June, or July as required by Alabama Administrative Code 265-X-3-.06. Now that is from the Alabama Justice Information Center. I hope that Montgomery has caught those numbers up. But again, I'm sure that's probably because a lack of numbers of law enforcement officers. So as we continue, there's been some conversations about the Montgomery Sheriff's Office. Well, the Montgomery Sheriff's Office is ready, willing, and able. They are fully staffed with a waiting list, fully staffed. The city of Montgomery has been paying $50,000 to the Sheriff's Department a month for their help. The Sheriff's Department, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department had to open an office in Eastchase. That ought to be an affront to the city, men and women of the city of Montgomery, to the police department, that the Sheriff's Office has had to come in and open an office over there in Eastchase. Over the last 7 years, we've had 5 different police chiefs in the city of Montgomery. You know, That's probably part of the reason. May not be the entire reason, but that's probably part of the reason that Montgomery's ranks are declining. Men and women of the Montgomery Police Department deserve our support. Citizens of the Montgomery demand it. Ladies and gentlemen, at the appropriate time, I'll be asking for you to vote for this bill, for the men and women of the Montgomery Police Department, all of their efforts and everything that we need to do to help them to make sure that we get crime under control in Montgomery. It's not a silver bullet, but it is a start. Mr. President?
Mr. President?
Senator Albritton.
I will.
Thank you. Mr. President, I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary read and receive the amendment.
Mr. President, can I speak to the amendment?
He's got to read the amendment in. Hold on.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 298 by Senator Albritton. Replace line 42 on page 2 with the following. Replace line 66 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 72 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 95 on page 4 with the following. Replace line 98 on page 4 with the following. Replace lines 101 through 102 on page 4 with the following. Replace line 118 on page 5 with the following. Replace lines 120 through 125 on page 5 with the following.
Mr. President, I move to adopt the amendment and wish to speak to the
Mr. President, I'd like to
Senator
speak to the
Albritton, you're
amendment.
recognized.
Thank you.
And just,
Mr. President, I come to you and to this body with a few changes. Now, these were not all these are not my changes, but we are able to put them together in a cohesive manner. And I'll go through and explain some of these. First off, let me compliment my colleague who's evidently passionate about his city and about the area and the difficulties that we're facing here. And it is imperative that we get this bill passed and we get these remedies resolved that we need to for the safety of the people in Montgomery. I am only a visitor here periodically as I come in, and I've seen things that are somewhat disturbing and challenging, and so I appreciate the representative of Montgomery bringing these, and I appreciate my colleague across the way who also represents Montgomery has many of the same concerns.
we have a petition from Rules.
From the Committee on Rules, petition to close debate. We, the undersigned members of the Senate Rules Committee, petition the Senate persuade to Senate Rule 20 that debate on the pending measure, Senate Bill number 298, shall cease at 3:23 o'clock on March the 31st, 2026.
Mr. President, if I may continue?
Yeah, Senator Albritton.
I'd like to now go through this amendment. It's about 4 pages, and I will take some time to go through and explain what the changes are as we move through it. First off, there's a replacement changing the minimum ratio of law enforcement officers. This was originally a 2 per 1,000, I think it was, population. And because of the input that came in, I think, from the other Class 3 municipality and the discussions that went on from that, this change has been brought forward. And this changes it from a 2 down to a 1.9 full-time law enforcement officers. The second change here has to deal that the number of law enforcement, the date of which that's to be handled on, and that was changed to an October 31st. Then as we move on, it gets down to the third section, or third change, dealing with the violation of Section 1 on or before October 1st of 2031, basically assigning out a time frame of when all the things will occur at particular sunset. It's not a sunset, but a particular goal time for these things to be achieved. Then we get down to the next one. May petition the local circuit court for restitution to enforce this act upon a finding that a Class 3 municipality violated Section 1, the court shall award the state full restitution for the cost to deploy. Now, this has to deal, in the original bill and the one that's there, the one that was before us on this, there is a means so that the city, will restore the cost to the state when the state comes in and does things. This means that when the state comes in and provides police services, personnel, equipment, and whatever else that comes into play, time and administrative cost, that will have to be accounted for. That's later on. But in this means is it says that to recover that cost, that it has to be proven to a local circuit court that that restitution was valid and that restitution is appropriate. And then, if those findings are there, and this further clarifies in the amendment, then the restitution shall be ordered. Basically, it's a means of protecting. Because if we don't do this, if we don't have a means so that the city restores that cost, we're going to have an unintended consequence whereby the state and the state police, which we don't have any really, will become part of governing and patrolling the streets of the city. And the extensions of that can become problematic. So this is a means that we retain the local responsibility and the local controls and the local responsibilities of policing and such. So anyway, this is a means so that there's a court oversight as to the costs and things that go on. Next change that we have is the restitution shall include, but not be limited to, payment. In other words, it will include some administrative costs and things which are in the original bill. It also calls for operational oversight, that costs to deploy any supplemental law enforcement officers and the full cost of indemnification of the state, its affected agencies, or any supporting political subdivisions. This means that not just the state can come in, but also the county. That the county has an obligation and responsibility, but the county doesn't have to bear the full burden of cost either. So we have that protections there, and also an aspect and a legal ramifications in the law so that this can become a legal opportunity for governing and for patrolling. The next change comes down. The cost of indemnification of any claim arising from the deployment of the state, its affiliated agencies, and any supporting political subdivisions, any other additional expenses incurred by the state, its affected agencies, or any supporting political subdivisions, and the total amount of money requested as restitution. So there's protections here, again, so that when the costs come down, whether it be in the gasoline costs, whether it be in the destruction or use of particular equipment, the depreciation factor that comes into play, all of those things can come into play because the city is responsible for those costs. It is the city's means of protecting its public, protecting its citizens, and when the state and the other agencies come in and fulfill these obligations, they should be bearing the cost on that. The next change comes in. Any supporting documentation necessary to establish any expenditure under this subsection. ALEA shall maintain a detailed record of all expenditures made in furtherance of this act and shall submit a report quarterly to those expenditures to the governor, the chair of the Finance Taxation General Fund Committee, the chair of the House and Ways General Fund Committee, the mayor of any municipality subject to operational oversight. This gives a responsibility to other executives and legislative leaders to make sure that the costs are being properly recorded, properly tracked, properly appropriated, and apportioned out as they are. We don't want a state trooper who's running down I-65 to turn off, or I-85 and turn off and run over to the Walmart over on Ann Street and run in and get gas or something, or whatever he may do, and then run over and charge that to the city. This is a means so that we have careful oversight and controls and reports made. The Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, upon request from the Attorney General, may appoint a sitting or retired circuit judge to preside over all proceedings under this section. If the Chief Justice determines that approving the request would serve the public interest, he or she shall appoint a visiting judge. The visiting judge shall serve until the final adjudication of the matter for which he or she was appointed. A visiting judge appointed shall confer on the visiting judge, the visiting judge appointment shall confer on the visiting judge all powers, authority, and jurisdiction of the respective judgeship to which he or she has been appointed. What this means is that if we go to the circuit court, and the circuit court is in Montgomery County, the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court can appoint another judge to come in. And this is to avoid any appearance of any issues dealing with opportunities like what we call in the courthouses too often home cooking, to be involved in this. So this is a means of which we can find an unbiased and a visiting judge to sit in and to make sure that these things are appropriately viewed. The court shall hold a hearing on the petition and shall grant the petition if the court is reasonably satisfied from the evidence that the petitioner is entitled to restitution pursuant to this section. This means that the legislature doesn't have the full final say on how much to pay and how to collect it. This means that we have to involve the judiciary on the circuit court level to be able to bring in people and to bring in a clear oversight on what the costs are. This means that the legislature is working with the rest of the government to ensure that the citizens are prepared and that the citizens are protected. The court shall hold a hearing on the petition, shall grant the petition if the court is reasonably satisfied from the evidence that the petitioner is entitled to restitution pursuant to this section. The petitioner, of course, would be ALEA or even the county, Montgomery County, whoever other entity has come in and provided services, they would have that reasonable opportunity for review. Following any award of restitution under this section, the Class 3 municipality shall have not less than 6 months to make the complete payment of the restitution. Thereafter, if the restitution payments have not been completed, the Class 3 municipality shall become ineligible to receive any of the following. Now, this is a matter of how do you collect the money. Well, first off, remember, you've got the services provided, you've got the reports that have to be made, you've got the reports that have to go out to the governor and the legislature, and then after that, you have to petition the court for repayment. And then you have a hearing, and then the municipality has 6 months. So you got a long wait time here between when you put the services on the ground and when the restitution is due to be paid. But after all that, if restitution is not paid, there are matters and methods of which collection may be achieved. And that are, in the amendment, as follows. Any state grant, gift, endowment, or any other sum of money or aid from the state of Alabama or department, board, or agency thereof. In other words, the city then, if they have not made the payment or restitution after this, after the hearing, after the judgment, after the reporting, then the city would become and also after 6 months, the city would become ineligible for any of these monies that would be coming to it. So the monies that they were entitled to receive or subject to receive could be used to make those payments. Any allocation of state revenues directly shared with local governing bodies, not otherwise guaranteed by the Constitution of Alabama of 2022, including but not limited to revenue from the Rebuild Alabama Act, Act 2019-2, 2019 First Special Session, and the net profits derived from the proceeds of the Alabama liquor stores as provided under Section 283-74. The Finance Director shall direct the Comptroller to withhold the distribution of revenue described under this subsection to which the Class 3 municipality would otherwise be entitled to a special fund within the state treasury. The legislature, by independent supplemental appropriation, may use monies in the special fund to satisfy the restitution payments, meaning that should this money have to be withheld or in some way, it would go into another special fund, and then for the agency to be repaid, that would have to come through a separate supplemental appropriation that this body would have to approve. And then that money would be going to the agency. So what we have from this amendment and from this bill are certain things that are imperative that we provide for the citizens of Montgomery. Number one, it provides a clear means so that we can obtain and have resources of police authority here within the city. We have clear means where that can be drawn upon sources from the state and drawn upon from the county and drawn upon actually from any other sources that have the opportunity and ability. That's where we are with this, is we are providing a means so that this can be achieved. We can gain the safety in Alabama and in Montgomery that we need here from the state. We can ensure that our citizens are protected. The second thing is we don't place an undue burden on the other citizens or the remainder of the state, because what we have is a methodology and a means whereby payment can be determined. Those are, of course, specified as we've gone through. The data is collected, the data is retained, the data is cataloged, and then it is reported to the legislature and to the executive and to the municipalities. After that reporting, the petitioner, in other words, the one who has provided the services, would have to go to a circuit court to obtain a circuit court judgment by the relevant evidence that they have provided to show that is the correct and true restitution, that these are the true costs that it came from, that these matters are the correct amounts that should be paid, that they are entitled to be paid, that they actually did provide those services, how and when that occurred. The court would have the ability to review that, to question that, to have witnesses called and questioned on that under oath to determine and make sure that they are reasonably convinced that the evidence is there, that the costs are just, that they are reasonable, and they are due to be paid. When that is done and that judgment is rendered in that court, then that adjudication is sent to the municipality. The municipality then has the option of paying in full within 6 months' time of that or receiving that adjudication. When that 6 months' time has expired, assuming that the city does not make a full payment, then the next option that the municipality or the other entity, the one who provided the service, would be then to